Hi there. Welcome to the Blissful Bliss podcast. I'm your host, Susanne Reicher, and I'm so excited you're here. So, when the pandemic hit in 2020, suddenly yoga teacher trainings moved online. And as my guest today found out, this actually could lead to better trainings and better teachers. People were getting better results. I'm talking to Ameriga Giannone, a yoga teacher from Sicily in Italy, about how she moved her trainings online and now to a hybrid model, combining online teachings with live elements that take place in Sicily. Ameriga earned her first degree in Oriental Languages and Cultures and spent 10 years living and traveling in various countries in East Asia. And since then, she has studied with deeply inspiring teachers and trained for over 2,000 hours, as well as a master's in yoga studies at Ca' Foscari in Venice. She's the real deal yoga teacher with so much to give and share, so much expertise, and an amazing story that she shares with us today. I love talking to her. Her energy is simply infectious, and I promise you're going to get so much out of our conversation. So let's dive in. Hey there, welcome to the Blissful Bliss podcast. I'm your host, Susanne Reicher, here to help yoga and wellness entrepreneurs build a thriving online business. If you're ready to make a bigger impact and earn money online, you are in the right place. Each week you learn about websites, digital products, social media strategies, and what's working now to build your online business. And now let's get started. Hi, Ameriga. Welcome to the Blissful Bliss podcast.
Oh, thank you, Susanne, for having me here. It's such an honor. I love your podcast.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know you were listening to it as well.
Oh, no, it's so informative. Like you share so much of your marketing wisdom in it. And also I love to learn about the stories of other people and what they do and what's happening in the industry. Yeah, super interesting.
So tell us a little bit about yourself so our listeners can get to know you.
Okay. So, well, my name is Ameriga and you can find me on Instagram, of course, Ameriga_yoga, very easy. And you can get a taste of what my life is like. I'm Sicilian, but I didn't live in Sicily for 14 years. I left when I was 18 and I lived everywhere in the world. My dream was to live in all the continents and I did it. So I went from, Asia, Africa, Latin America. And then eventually, 9 years ago, I decided to come back to Sicily because it was really calling me. This land is very powerful. When you visit, you'll know so many people cannot leave it, So
not everybody might know that Sicily is in Italy. So let's just put that out there.
Thank you so much. That's actually a very good point. Yeah. Sicily is the biggest island of Italy. It's in the south and we have the most amazing weather. Even now in January, I'm not wearing jackets most of the time. We have a beautiful volcano full of snow right now where you can ski or snowboard, amazing rocks where you can rock climb, beautiful beaches, beautiful winds. I also kite surf. So if you do any of the sports related to nature, this is really a paradise.
And you do it all, right? I mean,
I do it all.
On Instagram, you really do it all.
I don't get bored. So yeah, I kite surf in the summer. I've just moved to a new location called the Stagnone Lagoon last year. I'll tell you why in a second. And so usually in summer, my main hobby is kite surfing. There is a beautiful kite surfing town there. And then I rock climb, but that's more of an activity for spring and autumn because the weather, it's too hot in summer. And now I'm snowboarding on Etna on the volcano. So yeah, got it all.
That's amazing. I really didn't know that you could ski in Sicily.
Yeah, it's surprising. Yeah, I know. So many people when they see my Instagram stories, they're like, I saw you rock climbing yesterday wearing a tank top and today you are on the snowboarding. And I'm like, yes, I'm living the life. Move to Sicily.
And I'm guessing you also find some time to practice yoga in between, maybe more.
Oh, no, yoga is the stuff that keeps me going. I think I couldn't do it without the yoga, I was always very sporty my whole life. But before yoga, I was suffering from tremendous back pain. And I had 2 ACL surgeries. I broke my ligaments playing basketball. So I wasn't very healthy before yoga at all, even though I was very sporty. And I think nowadays, the reason that I can do all of the sports plus other stuff, I also pole dance, the reason that I can do all of that is really thanks to yoga. It keeps me going. My body feels younger now that I am almost 41 in 2 weeks than it was in my early 30s. So really, yoga keeps me going. I just finished my practice before this call.
I'm proud of you. I'm actually, I'm struggling keeping up my practice when I'm traveling. I don't have really enough space in my van. And, I don't know, it's too cold in the mornings to practice outside. And, but I've been for my first run yesterday, actually, since years. So I'm really proud of that. And
wow,
the last
good
year,
girl.
I think my exercise was like walking the dog. Yeah.
I mean, I understand also as you get older, it's so much harder to be disciplined in that way, but it's also so much more important to do it.
Especially weight training and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. No, but I hear you. When you don't have the physical space and it's cold and you don't have like a buddy to do this with or like a yoga class to follow, you have to have that tapas, like they say in Sanskrit, that discipline, that that it's going to be better for you to do it than not to do it.
Yeah.
So before the body calls you back, you should do it.
So, how long have you been practicing yoga? How did you become a yoga teacher? Did you do something else before or?
Yeah, I did all sorts of things. So I studied Oriental Languages and Cultures at the university. I studied Japanese and Tibetan. So this brought me to Japan and to Southeast Asia. And then I did a master's degree in anthropology and development. And this brought me to Africa. I worked for an NGO. And then somehow I ended up working for the profit sector in Chile, in South America. Then one day I woke up and I decided I was too bored with what I was doing. I wanted to be, this was like 12 years ago. I wanted to be a personal shopper. It was a thing in those times. And I was an Italian living in South America, and we're kind of famous for the fashion and the cooking as well. But cooking was not my thing. So I decided to dive into the fashion. So I started a career as a fashion consultant, ended up having a TV show at some point in Santiago, teaching anthropology of fashion at the university. So it was really a different life. Doing a lot of sports, traveling a lot, and having this recurrent backaches. And so then my friend was like, oh, you should try yoga. And it's going to be so good for your back. And so I did try this yoga thing that she said. I went to a hatha yoga class and I was bored as F. Like it was so boring. And I was, imagine a girl in late 20s. I'm very active now that I'm 41. Can you imagine how, wildly pitta I was when I was in my 20s? So I was super active. And to me, that hatha yoga class was just really too boring. I was also very disembodied, Susanne. We're not living in our bodies, most of us, unless we start an embodied practice like yoga. So this is why I wasn't taking care of myself and my body. I was just pushing it. Like my body was my brain taxi. So it had to do what my brain wanted. And I wasn't really listening. So then my friend, she said, no, but not hatha yoga. Try this other thing called Bikram yoga. You will like it. It's hot. This was during winter time in Chile. It's hot and you'll see, you'll like it. So then I try again. I go to a Bikram yoga class and I was hooked. And when I think of it, it's crazy. For 2 months, I went every day because they had classes at all times of the day. And I really got into it. And then after those 2 months, I moved away from Chile. I moved to Panama City. And I've never again been to a Bikram yoga class in my life. In fact, I don't even think it's yoga nowadays. But I have to say it really helped to hook me because it was strong. It was hard. It felt like a workout and it put me back into my body. So, I know there is a lot of scandals related to this guy. I think the sequence itself might not be the most anatomically sound out there, but I think it's gotten a lot of people, back into their bodies. And we have to, acknowledge that. So then I moved to Panama City and I kept on practicing that sequence because I'd learned it out of heart and it really was good for my health. And so for a while, this is all I did. And then at some point, life was moving around. I moved back to Sicily. And then I decided I wanted to learn more because I wanted to explore other postures and do something else. And so I went to Bali to do a 3 weeks yoga teacher training program. And this is how I became a yoga teacher.
That's so funny. I did my yoga teacher training in Bali too. And
yeah, like 90% of the people on this planet, I think.
Well, there are a few other places.
Yeah, there's a few. No, but Bali is major, and it was already major. Yeah, 10 years ago, I remember like there was so much, choice. Now,
I think it's like Disneyland for yoga teachers.
Yeah,
it's like
you said it. Yeah, absolutely. Now, look, I have to say this about myself. I think I had no clue about what I was doing because after 3 weeks, you cannot know how to teach yoga, especially when you're coming from basically having practiced like 26 postures, for 2 years, and that's it. And you haven't really had a teacher like, teaching you. And I wasn't the only one like that. I mean, so many people were doing this teacher training and hoping to learn how to teach or, become teachers. But eventually of that group that trained with me, I think only maybe 3 of us went ahead, and one of those persons was already teaching. And me, well, I had no idea what I was doing when I think back, but I had studied marketing before, so I had an idea on how to set up a business for sure. So even though I was not a good teacher, probably, I knew that I had some visions, some ideas, and I had some really good ideas on how to make this my life. So at that time, I was going out with a guy who was my ex-boyfriend. We had a bed and breakfast at the beach. And I told him, look, I'm going to just organize a space in the rooftop of your house, and I'll teach yoga here to the guests. And initially I was thinking maybe people will just come around and, maybe do a yoga class every now and then. Because, we had a lot of guests in the summer. But then I started to put this yoga holiday packages online. And we were the first ones in Italy. You didn't have anything like this. Yeah.
When was that?
This was 8 years ago. Yeah, there was nothing like this before. So, nothing like this in Italy. So all of a sudden, after 2 months, I start to see like people coming over for the yoga.
Do you remember that we actually got in touch back then, already worked together when I was running Yovunga, the yoga directory, the yoga retreat directory?
Yes, it was you. My God, you just reminded me now.
I looked for you. I found you in my emails. Yeah. I mean, your name is so unique. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like 2013 or 2014 or something.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, amazing. Yeah. We were really early in the European context. Now there is tons of yoga retreats, but this was the first place in Italy for sure. And we put it together with kite surfing. So it became this yoga and kite surfing holiday at the beach in this stunning, blue flag beach in Sicily. So all of a sudden I realized that I'm onto something here. Like it's not just, people doing yoga every now and then. And so when I realized that, slowly I kept on practicing and I realized, okay, I have to be a better teacher. And so for the next, 7 years, I've invested so much money on my yoga education that I could have bought a house. And I think this is the best money I've invested in my life, Suzanne. I studied all sorts of things. I started off with anatomy because I realized how important it was. I traveled all over the world to follow my anatomy teacher, Jo Fee. I don't know if you know her. She She also does yin yoga teacher. She does yin yoga. She does yin yoga, but she does a lot of anatomy as well. And so I went to New Zealand and Australia to do a training on the shoulders, a training on the spine. Eventually, I followed her in Germany where I did a cadaver dissection. So we dissected the cadaver.
Yeah, I know that she did that actually. Yeah, I don't know who told me that. Yeah.
Crazy. I did that 2 years ago or 3 years ago as well. So I wanted to know everything about anatomy because I realized how important it is for sequencing and for teaching yoga, and especially for teaching, kick-ass classes. Because when you're teaching like this feel-good classes, it's hard to get it wrong. But I started to teach really complex classes and complex postures. Because in the meanwhile, I was going to India every winter and I had some Indian teachers. And, you know, the Indians are like that. If they decided that you have to do this pose, you're going to do it, you know. They're just going to make you, you know, put you into this pretzel-like position, you know, until you actually do it. So I was learning a lot of advanced stuff from them, how to do it myself and also how to teach it. And I wanted to know more about anatomy because how is this pose affecting my students' individual, you know, body? And is it for everyone as well? And who can do this? Who shouldn't be doing this, you know? And a lot of the learnings that I've done through anatomy has been through my own personal injuries. So getting injured by my teachers or injuring myself because I wanted to do something that I couldn't do because of many reasons, you know, my body, my bones, whatever, right? So anatomy was the first thing. Then I did a master's degree in yoga studies because now I wanted to know everything about the philosophy. And so while I was doing this master's degree, I was flying to Milan once a month to go and take classes. In the meanwhile, I was studying Sanskrit online with a teacher in Tamil Nadu. It was wild. When I think back of that here, like it was crazy. So anyways, so diving deep into the philosophy, into the texts. And this really gave me a good solid base to start my own teacher trainings. Because in the meanwhile, I had students asking me, when are you going to do a teacher training? When are you going to do a teacher training? And I felt like, man, you have to know so much to do something like a teacher training. I'm not ready. So I kept on, you know, studying and investing in myself. And eventually I decided to launch my first teacher trainings. And I did that thinking about all the things that that weren't so good about the trainings I had taken. Because from the first training onwards, I trained for like 2,000 hours. I went all over the world. I studied with some of the, you know, best teachers worldwide, like Shiva Rea. I did my 300 hours with her. I'd done stuff with Megan Carey and then Gregor Mele, Monica Gauci, Nancy Gilgoff, Lino Miele, Ashtanga, Yin, Vinyasa, you name it.
Was it hard for you? Because I know this is like this can be a mindset block or an issue for a lot of teachers, coaches, that you always feel you need another training, that you're never expert enough to, and it can really stop you from putting your offers out there, from really stepping up as
I can totally, you know, relate to this, that you can always know more. With yoga, it's so easy because it embraces so many things, you know. So first with the anatomy, then with the philosophy, then I had to learn Sanskrit. Then I was learning sequencing was the first thing I was learning. And of course, pranayama. And pranayama led me into neuroscience. And now I'm doing a mind-body therapy course. And I did a life coaching course. And, you know, it's like, it's so broad. But the way I like to see this is you don't have to know it all. It's beautiful that you can reach out to so many different disciplines and that you'll never get bored.
Yeah, but what helped you? What helped you to really decide, okay, now it's time to start offering a yoga teacher training. Now I know enough.
No, I think it was my students that convinced me. It wasn't me. Like, I think I could have waited much longer, but they were just saying, why don't you do it? Why don't you do it? When I decided to do it, it took me 1 year to write down my first teacher training manual. And in that year, I was also doing more studying. And then, you know, in hindsight now, 5 years later, you know, now I've been offering teacher trainings for a while. I realized that it didn't have to be that way. Especially for a 200-hour teacher training programs, you cannot overwhelm people with all that information. That I am so sorry, but my first group was really overwhelmed with way more than 200 hours of classes. And there was so much anatomy, so much history, so much philosophy. Oh my God. Like I'm in touch with all of them and I love them dearly. And I always tell them, you guys, you have to come back, have a holiday with me. I owe it to you. You know, I've changed so much as a teacher as well.
It's funny. It's like the same issue a lot of people have when they put up their first online program, like an online course. You want to put in everything that you know. and you feel that's going to make it more valuable. And in fact, it's going to overwhelm your students. Yes.
Absolutely. So I've learned it the hard way. So nowadays I've structured my offer so much better that you have like a 250 hours, teacher training program that is for people who are really passionate and they want to learn the sequencing. I give them a very good chunk of anatomy, but make it very accessible. So I don't speak about 600 muscles in the body. I speak about 10 myofascial tissues. So you have to understand 10 target areas, which is a lot easier. And it's always applied to the yoga postures. And then even the part of philosophy, I make it as down to earth as possible. Like, how are we actually using this in our lives? There's so much theory. I mean, you can read so many books on yoga philosophy, but how can this make a difference in my life? And how can I share this in an easy way with my students, So this is sorry.
Yeah, let's move on a little bit from like all the details in your teacher training, which I'm sure it's totally amazing. So you started setting it up and you got your first students joining your teacher trainings, right? So how did it evolve over the years, like business-wise, from a business standpoint?
Yeah. So my first teacher training, I didn't want to do it in 3 weeks, like the one that I'd done, because I realized that it's not enough time to digest everything. People will not learn to teach. And it's 3 weeks is just a nice immersion, but I don't believe in that format. So I decided I was going to do it in 6 months, and people had to come to Sicily 3 times. And in the meanwhile, we would stay in touch. So this was a lot of traveling for people. Of course, it brought the costs up. And so I thought, okay, in the future, I will only do it with people coming twice in 6 months.
Do you do it in Italian or in English or both?
In English. No. I work with very, European, student base. So it's in English. This year, I'm actually offering the first one in Italian. So then something interesting happened. COVID hit. So when COVID hit, I was in Byron Bay. I was assisting my Ashtanga teachers there. And Italy was the first country, if you remember, that went into a lockdown. And I'm talking to people back home and they're like, Ameriga, stay in Australia. Like, don't even think of coming back here, because they were in lockdown for a month, maybe longer. I don't remember, because I didn't do it. So I stayed in Byron Bay, and here I am, and I'm thinking I cannot open my center. Who knows for how long? And I have a teacher training starting in April. So this was in March, 15th of March. I was using this app called Zoom to do harmonium classes, because I do kirtan in my classes with my teacher. And so I was like, what if I use this app also to teach yoga to my students, So this is like, nobody knew Zoom. I only knew it because of my harmonium classes. And so then I said, 15th of March of 2020, I'm like, hey guys, I speak to my community. How about we get together for a free yoga class? And then the whole phenomenon of Zoom yoga started. I guess I was really early with that one as well. And then at some point, I'm like, okay, my students are supposed to come to Sicily in April, but I don't think this is going to happen. So then I contact them and I'm like, guys, how about we do it online? And look, some people resisted it. They were like, no, what is this? And I lost some students. But I gained many more students from that, because some people were like, what? I can do this online with you. You're in Australia. I'm at home. I'm in a lockdown. Because in the meanwhile, all the European countries were going in a lockdown. So boom. So then I did my first half of the teacher training online. It lasted a few months. I created a new schedule, so it didn't have to be an immersion. And I realized, you know what? This is actually better, because when you learn something, when you go into an immersion, they say that our brains can retain only 20% of what we hear. And so there's, you're overwhelmed with information, and then you'll forget most of it. Whereas when you learn online, the lessons are a lot shorter. Like, usually now I teach 2-hour classes. Mm-hmm. So for 2 hours, it's easier to be focused than it is for 8 hours, right? Plus, people can watch the recording. And sometimes there's just so much information that you want to watch those recordings, so take better notes, stop the teacher while she's speaking, especially me, because I speak so fast, And so I started to realize that my students were so much better prepared. And my first group that I taught half online and half in person, so they came over for the in-person part in October, they were such better teachers. And so then I thought, you know what, even if we can go back to teaching in person, I think I'm just going to keep the online part for the theory and also for the practice teaching. Because when you do it in person, and you have a group of people, they teach.
It's a lot of waiting, right? Then you're always waiting for other people. Yeah.
Yeah. And you teach, but you teach for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes. Whereas on Zoom, now I have the possibility of giving people a full class to teach. Now you go and teach 90 minutes class to the rest of the group. And there is, you use the time so much better. In an in-person training, all the hours that you're having lunch and you're chilling, these are, hours of training as well. Yeah. Yoga Alliance considers them part of the training. When you are on Zoom, that's it, it's like 2 hours and 2 hours you're doing that work. There is no wasting time in between. So you have a lot of time to give to your students for practice teaching. And I realized that my students are so well prepared. They're such amazing teachers now, thanks to the fact that half of the training is on Zoom.
They probably spend more time on their trainings as well than they would have in a 3-week immersion, right?
Absolutely.
Where you can't be focused all the time. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah. So like this, they see me live twice a week during the teacher training for 2 hours. Then I give them homeworks, they have some extra stuff to watch. There is some recorded videos as well. In the live classes, it's super interactive. So, I check that they've read the stuff they had to read or that they understood the concept. I make them practice everything that I teach. So I teach something, 2 seconds later, they are in the breakout room and they're practicing it, so that they put it into practice immediately. So I think really, if you want to become a teacher, this is the best way. If you want a nice immersion into yoga, then a yoga retreat or one of those, 3 weeks teacher training, which can be exhausting because, my God, Susanna, how exhausting
I know, yeah. And some people said, but the community, and of course it's nice. I have really still connections to people, to some amazing women I met in my yoga teacher training, but that's not why you need to spend like thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and also
friends, right?
May I say something actually about this aspect? Mm-hmm. The community really depends on on the environment of the training, and especially with these courses, my courses always take 4 months, 6 months, because I think it takes time to become a teacher. So you see these people every week for so much longer than just 3 weeks. So, and there is sharing times, and there is times where we speak about our personal things, and then eventually you see them in person at the end, and you feel like you really know them. And so the community is actually even stronger. Yeah. So it's because you're in touch with them for so much longer. So I think that actually it's even better with this new hybrid modality. Yeah. So I think when people ask me, oh, why you don't do it all in person? I want to do it all in person. I'm like, look, we're going to have the in-person part, which is super important. It lasts 1 week and it's at the end. And of course we have to have that. But there's so much theory and so much more practice teaching that you can do with the online part that I don't think I'm going to drop that. From my experience, I create better teachers, not that I create them, but I train better teachers with this new modality than it used to be in the past. So for now, I'm much happier to keep it like this. Yeah.
How did you set it up technically? Do you use like a platform to provide all the recordings and stuff and community elements? What do you do?
Yeah. So when you sign up, so we have a Facebook group and a WhatsApp group. So just in case we can share stuff there. Then we have a Zoom live classroom where we meet twice a week. And then there is a platform on Teachable where I upload all the recording of the classes. So if you couldn't come to the class, you can do it on Teachable. And then I also have another platform where there are some recorded classes for you to watch throughout the training. Stuff on, for example, history and philosophy that you don't really need to sit with me for 2 hours, So I just send the recording and then we do a live session together to talk about it and to share and to see how we can use this in our lives, to see how we can share this piece of philosophy in our classes as a team and all that.
I love that. Yeah. No, it's so amazing. Also like a WhatsApp group. I'm thinking about adding that to my program as well.
If you don't have crazy numbers, my trainings, I don't like to have trainings that are like crazy busy. I've been in trainings with 80 people, with 50 people, and you feel just like a number. So for me, it doesn't work like that. I believe, traditionally in India, you would study with a teacher for a while, and then they would tell you, okay, you know what, you're ready to teach, go off and teach, right? So I know that nowadays our societies, they don't make it so easy to do it that way. But I do think that it's so important to have a connection with your lead teacher. So I know all the students that take my trainings before, like if somebody comes to me and they haven't practiced with me, I tell them, why don't you take a class first? So you know my style. And then I speak to them on the phone so they know me, because we're going to be together for 6 months. So we need to know who we are. You need to know your lead teacher. And then we have a very personal relationship. So I keep the group sizes small. I never have more than 15 people in my trainings. And I hope that this is an ongoing relationship that lasts forever. And in fact, it is. Most of my students, I'm in touch with them, and they keep on coming back to my retreats. I see them when I go on tour. We speak on the phone. I have a mentoring program. And it's more like a friendship, in the end, which I love. It's the best part for me as a teacher, that they're my friends.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that also, like this, this deeper connection that you build with your students, with your clients.
Yeah.
How many teacher trainings do you do then? Is it like 2 a year or 1 a year? Or
okay, so I do
an intense process, right?
Yeah, it's an intense process. So I do only 1 200-hour every year. I'm going to start my next one in March. So by the way, there's still time to sign up. And then I do the 300 hours as well. I do it in modules. So there is the first program, which is, to get started. I always say that the 200-hour program is the entrance, it's the beginning of the journey. It's not the end. And then once you start this journey, you will meet a community of people. Your life changes. It's very transformative. So then I have all these other modules for people who want to deepen different aspects. So for example, I have a module on hands-on assist, especially now that so many people are training online. It's really important to learn to adjust your students individually, to touch them in the right way, and all that. So I have that module in July in person. Then I have modules on history and philosophy. I have a module that brings together life coaching, because I'm also a life coach, and yoga, and draws parallel in between the two. I have a module on sequencing that is for people who haven't taken my 200 hours and they are just very confused how to put together a sequence. I have some online modules also on anatomy, for example, on yin yoga. I'm launching a new module on yoga psychology in March, which is going to be live. So I have all these different modules on different topics for people who want to deepen specific aspects. And for people that do my 300 hours, they can take up to 3 years to complete them. So, 1 year they will do a module, another year they will do another module, come and see me in Sicily. Do it online, so they can do it, It's mixed.
What style of yoga do you teach? Is it like vinyasa yoga? Do you have like your own style?
So originally, I guess it was vinyasa yoga, but then my students were like, this is so different from a regular vinyasa, because so there is a theme at the beginning of every class, so that draws from yoga philosophy. I do kirtan, so there is this bhakti element. And the sequencing also, it's a little peculiar. So it was my students again that says, let's change the name, let's call it something. And so initially we called it Bhakti Prema Vinyasa, with the Bhakti element, and Prema, they wanted the word love into it. And then when I registered it, we couldn't keep the Bhakti, so I just used the Prema Vinyasa Yoga. So Prema like love, and Vinyasa Yoga, So it's a little bit particular, and it's especially the way I teach it. I guess my students, it depends. You can find it more solar and more lunar. So when I teach solar classes, it can be quite challenging. So there is a lot of strength-based postures and sequences and drills, and a lot of flexibility as well. And I teach a lot of advanced stuff, but I break it down so that everybody can try. Everybody can do all the poses. You just need a belt and 2 blocks. This is what I say.
Okay.
So I Susanna, I advocate democracy for yoga poses. This is what I call it. I've been too much in Ashtanga yoga shalas where you were looked at for how far you could go into the series, and you're a better yogi if you can do the second series, or, all of that. Then I realized this is BS. we don't do the poses for the performance. We do the poses because they help us release contraction in the tissues that comes usually from the mind, sometimes from bad postural habits, but the bad posture usually comes also from the mind and the emotional world. So I think everybody should try all the yoga postures. You just need to have the right props so that if you cannot grab your foot with your hand, you can grab it with a belt and you still feel the exact same sensation of the person that can grab the foot.
Yeah.
So I just teach everything to everybody, unless, of course, there is a special condition. Yeah.
Where do you find your students? So where do they find you? So is it like is it word of mouth now, the majority, or is it do you still do like Zoom classes, like normal classes and retreats? So how do people sign up for your class?
Okay, so for 7 years, I taught religiously for 7 months every year in my yoga center. So this gave me, of course, a tremendous exposure. And so a lot of people still come to me because they are my students for a long time. Some people from word of mouth. So a friend told them. I do little tours sometimes, like next week, I'm going to go on a teaching tour in the north of Italy. I teach online on Zoom, and I also have my classes on some online platforms, but that's mostly in Italy. And then I do retreats in stunning locations. And I think it's mostly really word of mouth, like the good old way, that this is how I was finding my teachers. Some people would tell me, oh, you should go and practice with this guy in India, or you should go and practice with this girl in Australia. Somebody would tell you, and then you ask, and then you just give it a try. So I think, I have a big student base of people who have actually practiced with me. And then a lot of people come to me because they've been referred. And I'm looking into setting up a new studio because now I no longer teach at my yoga center. I split up with my ex. And so last year I've moved to the other side of the island. And I started to offer 1-week retreats, which I love as a format because we can go so deep into a 1-week retreat, and I just love it, and I love the community and the relationship with the students. So that's something I love. But I'm also thinking of setting up a new place for the community to get together and practice at the lagoon where I've moved. So I'm looking into that. So who knows? Fingers crossed.
Sounds beautiful. Do you do anything to get people to share, like any strategies that you use to get people to share about your retreats and offers, or is it just all organically, basically?
I have to say it's very organic for me. It's a lot of returning students. I always offer new things in my retreats. Like I keep on studying all the time. I keep on working on myself. My own personal experience is the greatest inspiration for my retreats as well. And then people just, talk about it, and friends come, and it's very organic. Yeah.
It's just amazing. It's just like what you can achieve with years and years and years of, like consistently putting in the work, like, like working on your offers, working on your expertise, putting yourself out there. I just feel it's important to mention that for someone who's just getting started, they can't really compare themselves to where you are right now.
Yeah.
Right?
I would say, look, because some people tell me, people believe that marketing is important, and I'm sure it's important. And, I keep up with my social media. I have a web page, and I've never done Facebook ads, for example, never. Because I think ultimately, marketing is important, but who you are is more important. So what I would say...
Definitely, yes, definitely. You can't, you could maybe sell something with just advertising one time, but this is just I would never recommend building up a business that only relies on advertising.
Absolutely.
You want to work on building relationships.
Yeah, and building yourself as a teacher, So I think if you just finished a 200-hour teacher training program and you want to make this your profession, what I would say is invest in more education, study more, because really this is what made the difference for me. And the reason that I have so many different programs is that I've studied so many different things. And like I said at the beginning of the interview, the money I've invested in myself, it's been the best invested money. Because nowadays I have all these different programs, and it really makes the difference. Yeah. Look, I only have 5,000 followers on Instagram. And I guess sometimes I will have people that start to follow me on Instagram, and it's happened that they've come to my retreats. It's happened.
Yeah.
But it's a small minority. For me, Instagram is really to keep in touch with the community and to show what I'm doing and what I'm up to. But it's not to get new clients. I wouldn't say that.
It's never about the quantity of followers. I mean, you could have you could build an amazing following, like tens of thousands of people, just by posting pictures of you doing great yoga poses. But those people are never going to buy anything from you, right? So they might follow you for the completely wrong reasons.
Yeah, thank you for saying this. It's so important. And just like you said, you can have thousands of followers who maybe you even bought, or they're just following you because you're publishing nice pictures, but they're not going to buy. Yeah, you're right. So I don't know. I think I advocate for real economy. There is so much of, digital marketing and digital economy, but I advocate for real economy, to see the teachers that we like in person, to go to see the teachers that have been recommended to us, to go back to our teachers and support them. And yeah, I think the yoga world will still keep on going back into that direction, no matter, all the marketing that you can put out there, because ultimately it's about how you feel when you do yoga and the relationship you have with your teacher. So if you cannot have that because there is a screen in between and 10,000 people in the middle, you're not going to follow that person.
I don't know. I think you can also really build connections and relationship with someone just through a screen. I mean, it's like a lot of coaches only offer online coaching. And
I know, totally
and helpful.
No, totally. I'm just saying that it's I totally believe that you can do it. I'm just saying that the more people, the bigger the celebrity, let's say, the harder to have a connection.
No, and I love that you combine it. I think it's a really unique approach to say, okay, I'm going to have the part of the teacher training online, and there's this library with all those classes, and you can learn in your own time. I think that's amazing and so helpful and really great for people to really dive in deeper and stay focused and really digest what they're learning. And then you still have that live element where you all meet up together, and it's probably going to be so amazing when you all meet up and you've just get to know each other for months before online. And
it's amazing. It's unbelievable. And it's so wild, Suzanne, because you have all these hours of practice, and then my retreats are in the stunning locations in Sicily, which are also fun. My summer retreats are in this kite surfing lagoon. So you can imagine, it's not just yoga. We also go out. We go rock climbing on one day. We have some beautiful ceremonies at the beach. It's just, it's life-changing for me. So imagine how life-changing it is for the participants. It's next level.
I love that. I think it's really, really sounds amazing. And so, do you see yourself continuing with that for the next years? What are your plans? What do you see happening in the next, 5 years? Let's hear your 5-year plan.
My 5-year plan. Oh, Jesus. All righty. So look, I think we have to be very flexible. Of course, we're yoga teachers, so it's easier for us. But the world is changing so rapidly, and with this, lockdowns and pandemics, so you don't really know what is happening. So I think I'm just going to follow, the flow and adjust myself. But I think that for the teacher trainings, I will continue with this hybrid modality. So in person and online, because for now, I think it's the best way to go. And then I think my dream for the next 5 years is probably to set up another location on the other side of the island that can be a hub for the community, where people can get together and live together and practice yoga and be in nature and, have a space like that. So I guess this is the direction where I'm going. Yeah.
So you see yourself stay rooted in Sicily? So, yeah.
Wow. So look, for somebody that has traveled for 20 years and, every winter in the last 8 years, I've been in Sicily during the summer months and the spring months. And then I was traveling in winter. Every year I would go to India, I would go to Bali, Australia, Hawaii, I would travel. And this is my first winter that I'm spending in Sicily. Since I was 18. And I'm discovering that Sicily is so beautiful, and that in winter it offers so much, that I'm not feeling a necessity to travel this year for the first time in 20 years. And I think I'm also stepping into a new phase of my life. I think before it was so important for me to travel, to discover. I was very curious. I know India so well, and it was just something that I was doing by inertia at some point. I knew that every year for 4 months I would travel. And I think now I'm stepping into a phase of my life where I feel the importance of being grounded and being in nature. And I know you can relate to that, because we're doing this call and you are in your van in the middle of nature. But I'm really feeling that it's a different phase of my life, where for me it's more important now to be in nature and to be active in nature. So do all my, rock climbing, kite surfing, snowboarding, whatever I'm doing. And just that for now. And look, when I came back to Sicily 8 years ago, one of the reasons that brought me back here was that this island is amazing. It's so beautiful. And I wanted to do something for the island. Because, okay, so now this is a little personal, but when I left, when I was 18, I left and I swore that I would never come back to Sicily. I hated it. And the reason I hated it so much was that when I was in school, it was really hard to live in Sicily. And I don't know, maybe you remember, but Sicily is the land of mafia. And when I was a little girl, there were a lot of killings in my city. I witnessed, I witnessed a lot of mafia killings, even close to my family. I was scared for my parents, for example, and I was living in fear, like many Sicilians. This started to change after the death of 2 judges who were fighting against the mafia. Maybe you've heard their names, Falcone and Borsellino. So their picture is in my altar in the yoga shala, because after their deaths, there was a movement to, remove mafia from Sicily. So, Italy, the government sent the military, and they started to tackle the organization, and eventually they almost dismantled it, basically, so that nowadays I can have a business in Sicily and I don't have to pay, otherwise they would set it on fire. This used to happen, 20 years ago. So when I left Sicily, I left and I swear I will never come back here. You cannot live in this place. But the island has changed so much thanks to so many people who have put their work and their lives into changing it. And at some point 10 years ago, I started to think that I wanted to come back and do something for my island as well. And that I had so much potential and that I was doing great things. But why would I do them in South America or whatever else when I have a place back home that I feel so strong about? So when I came back, that's when my work started, and I created the yoga center. And it was amazing because we really have people from all over the world going to this village in the middle of nowhere and enjoying Sicily and discovering how beautiful this island is. And I think it's the most beautiful place in the world. And if I say that, it's probably correct, because I've seen there is hardly other places that I know that are so beautiful. So I think on the one hand, I think about my profession, my career, and sharing my yoga. But on the other hand, I also feel like I have to give back to my island. So maybe have another center somewhere else and keep on bringing people to here. And so many foreigners have moved to Sicily because it's just a stunning place. And this island hopefully can become more beautiful and more beautiful every day,
I love it. It sounds like you're really connected to your community there. And and you can still, of course, go traveling.
Yeah. So this is my first Sicilian winter, and I'm discovering that Sicily is amazing even in winter. So I will keep on traveling. I will keep on teaching here and there and do my things. But I'm buying a van just like you, because I want to have my house on wheels and be able to explore the island, enjoy the island everywhere, in every corner.
I love it. Yeah.
That's the plan of action.
Just have to manifest it. Yeah,
it's happening already. I'm gonna see the vans next week, so it's happening.
Oh, exciting! Are you going to outfit it yourself, or?
Oh, I wish, but I don't know. Yeah, I think it's going to take too long. Like I see yours, it's so beautiful.
Oh, I didn't do it myself. I hired someone to do it. I don't have a place, a garage, or the tools, or
on the know-how.
Yeah.
I'm just going to buy something ready-made. But I don't know, like to find something as cool as yours, that's quite difficult. Yours is really next level.
I can show it. I'm going to share the company with you.
Please, and I'm sure there is other people listening that want to know. Yeah.
So that's Camperia. They're based in Munich or close to Munich in Germany. Okay. And they're like a super cool young team.
Okay.
Guys who just like started a company outfitting camper vans. Yeah.
Super cool. I love it.
So, what else do our listeners need to know? What else do you want to share? Where can they get in touch with you?
All right. So, well, if they want to come over to Sicily for the summer to have a retreat with me, I have a website. It's called mindbodyalchemy.org. My retreats are one of a kind, meaning there's much more than just yoga. I'm also a life coach, a master NLP practitioner, and an expert in ceremonies and pujas. So there is a lot happening, and people come out completely transformed. So it's a lot of yoga, a lot of practice, a lot of learning, new crazy stuff, yoga poses, you name it. But there is also a lot of work on personal growth that we do. So I also have some retreats with interesting experiences like rock climbing. I have one in May, which is almost fully booked. So I guess I'm going to have to offer it in November as well. And, it's possible to kite surf and do other stuff during my retreats. And for the teachers out there, just check out all my teacher trainings modules. If you want to learn and study with me, we can have a good time.
And I'm going to add the link to your website to the show notes, obviously. So definitely check out Ameriga. It was so nice chatting to you. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here.
It was an honor to be here. And thank you so much for the opportunity, Suzanne.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Blissful Biz podcast. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes. This would mean the world to me. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to never miss a new episode. To learn more about how to work with me one-on-one, my courses and membership, or to get instant access to freebies, workshops, and more, go to SusanneReiker.com right now. Thanks for tuning in and see you next time.